Okay, so today's date is Thursday, April 21st, 2016, and my name is Bill Severud. I'm a graduate student at the University of Minnesota's Natural Resources Science and Management program. I'm going to be conducting a COWCH interview with Dr. Peter Jordan today as part of an oral history project for the Wildlife Society. Also working with us is Ryan Keenan, an undergraduate from the Department of Fisheries, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology, a department that Dr. Jordan was a member of for many years. So, like I said, we're just going to go through a set of questions and then kind of see where the interview goes. So first, can we start out with where were you born and what date?
I was born in California, Bay Area, Alameda.
Okay. And when was your birth date?
January 2nd, 1930.
Okay, all right. What are your parents' names?
My mother was Frances, and my father was Albion Jordan. My father was dead. He died shortly before I was born.
Okay.
So I really never had a father.
I see. And then did you grow up in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's ranch just down in Santa Cruz. Are you familiar with California, where Santa Cruz is?
A little.
It's about 70 miles south of San Francisco, but it's on Monterey Bay.
Okay.
Beautiful place.
All right, so then what university did you attend for your undergraduate?
Berkeley.
Berkeley, okay.
I didn't get in because I didn't have the grades, so I went to junior college in Marion County for 1 year.
Okay.
And then took a lot of correspondence courses, and I got into Berkeley.
All right, and then what degree did you get at?
Pardon?
What degree at Berkeley?
Well, I started out thinking I wanted to be a chemical engineer, and I did so poorly that I got drafted. And I was in the Army for 2 years, and the second year, and I got a commission for second lieutenant of infantry. And the second year, I was stationed in Washington.
Okay.
And when I was in Washington State, and when I was up there, I met a guy. He was a corporal. He didn't have a car, but he was a mountain climber. So we partnered. We went up to Seattle every weekend to party with his friends, but we'd also go climbing.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time climbing, and during that time I just rubbed shoulders with forestry and wildlife professionals. And I said, my gosh, this is a way to make a living. So I went back to Berkeley, went back to college, and I had two choices. I could go into forestry or I could go into wildlife management. Oh, wildlife management was better because I didn't have to go to summer camp. So Starker Leopold was my advisor.
Okay.
Son of Aldo Leopold, if you've ever heard of him.
Yes. Yeah.
So things worked out rather nicely,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
Fell into it, you might say. Oh, and when I was in college, before I was drafted, I was getting C's and D's. When I came back, I was getting A's and B's. I was just totally changed.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a nice path to get into it. So once you got your undergrad degree, did you go straight into graduate work, or did you work for a while, or?
I went into graduate work because they took me on a trip to see if I wanted to be a summer helper on a new project that was similar to one that had just been completed on studying deer, financed by Calif and Game. And these people all talk about, well, this plant and that plant and this plant. And I said, gosh, there's nobody to study deer. You're the only wildlife person. How about you? And I said, okay. And that's how I got my PhD opportunity,
Okay.
just by chance.
Wow. And what school was that through?
It was the Department of Forestry, because that's where range management was, out at Berkeley.
At Berkeley. Okay. All right. All right. And so you went straight into a PhD program, then you didn't do a master's?
I did.
Oh.
I mean, you ordinarily do a master's, but things just worked out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see. Go back to that. So we kind of went over how you decided to pursue a career, your rock climbing adventures, and that's how you decided to pursue the career. What hobbies, books, or events influenced your career choice? And did you hunt or fish?
I fished right from the start because I was very strongly influenced by my sister, and she was an avid fisherman. So we were fishing in the Santa Cruz Mountains for trout, and then going down to the ocean and fishing for whatever the fish are in the rock pools and so on down there. I never hunted until I was in Starker Leopold's program, and he had a duck hunting lodge or a duck hunting situation up the valley, and I didn't think I'd like hunting, but I took to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never did much of deer hunting, although right here in town, you know where the arsenal is?
Mm-hmm.
It was overrun with deer, and they needed somebody to help keep the numbers down. So I probably shot 100 deer up there.
That's something that Steve mentioned, that did you do that with Ron Moen some?
No, I think that was before Ron.
Oh, okay. All right.
It happened. I mean, I stepped into it when the guy whose position I was taking, he moved on, and he'd been doing it. So they needed somebody to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay. They provided me with a rifle and everything.
Was there a lot of public support for that, or was it controversial at the time?
Not too many people knew about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that helps.
It was not publicized.
Uh-huh.
I mean, very few people could go on the arsenal. You had to be approved by the government to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had that special permit. And it's big enough so the people on the outside really didn't know what was going on.
Okay. And do you think, were the objectives met through doing this? Or?
Well, I shot as many as I could, but there was still a lot to do. What they finally did is they opened it up to archery hunting.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of solved the problem for them.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But they didn't like the idea of just letting anybody in.
Yeah. So you've already mentioned Leopold. Who are some of your other mentors, and how did they influence you?
A guy named Tabor. I kind of forget his first name. I think Dick Tabor. I think it was Dick Tabor.
Dick Tabor.
He was on this, and along with he's so bad. He and his partner did their PhD on deer up north of the bay, in Napa or someplace like that, and put together a really nice publication for Fish and Game, which was published by them.
Okay.
But I was influenced by him because I went to the field with him and just got along fine.
Okay. So then, did you have any other mentors throughout your career that you can think of? I have a note here that you did a postdoc at Purdue.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the Isle Royal studies.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And at Purdue, it was, God, I could send you into the other room and get his book, the guy who started.
Oh, Durwood.
Durwood Allen, you got it, yeah. He was working in Washington and heard that wolves had arrived at Isle Royal, quit his job there. He got an academic position in Purdue, and Dave Meach was one of his first students.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed, just as Meach was coming off, I went on,
Okay.
and others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what aspect of your formal education was the most useful in your career?
That's a hard question.
It is.
I mean, I think most everything that I worked on, I'd had a fair amount of math and chemistry and physics, besides the wildlife, animal biology, and so on.
Okay.
I don't know. None stands out as being extremely important, but certainly learning the natural history of our wildlife animals and their management challenges and just what was being done for managing deer and managing quail and managing this, that, and the other.
Okay. All right.
And waterfowl, yeah. Quite a bit of interest in waterfowl.
All right. So then moving on to the military service. You mentioned some of this before. So you said you served in the Army for 2 years.
Yes.
And do you remember what years those were?
Oof. I've been meaning to create a calendar. I mean, I was not yet married, essentially right out of college. So I would have been about 21 or so, and that would have been 1951, somewhere around 1951.
Okay. 1951 around then.
Yeah.
And then while you were serving, what was your duty?
While I was serving in the Army,
Mm-hmm.
well, I think I kind of explained it. I mean, after my training, first of all, I went to basic, whatever they call it, basic camp.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked me into going to, and I had chosen the chemical corps because at that time I thought I wanted to be a chemical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. But I went to the infantry officer training in Georgia, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And what it did for me, very, very important, I had no self-confidence before.
Hmm.
I would never get up and start talking to people,
Yeah.
say nothing about instructing them. Well, you did it there because they told you to. And I came out and, hey, this is pretty easy. So, training troops, there's a lot of instruction on the field and the class. And that's what I did for the next year up in Washington.
Okay. So you did not serve overseas?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I came close to it if I'd been in any longer because we were in that war. Yeah. Whatever they call it.
The Korean War, the
Korean
Vietnam
War,
War.
yes.
Okay. So then the final question about military is, did military service relate in any way to your wildlife professional career? And I
Yes.
can see how, you said it gave you self-confidence and...
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next section is about family. Let's see. Tell us about your spouse, it says. You were married at one point, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And when and how did you meet?
Well, it was while I was still at Berkeley, and I had a roommate who was an undergrad, and he said, "Gosh, I'm going home to New Jersey. Would you mind taking Martha to the Christmas party?" Well, I wanted to go to the party, so I said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got, I didn't see much of her at the party, but when we got back in front of her house, we started talking. And we talked for 3 hours.
Oh.
That kind of, I'll tell you, you get to know somebody pretty well if you talk to them 3 hours. And we didn't separate at all until we got married. It was like that.
Okay.
Very simple. No stress, no strain, no competition.
And then when did you marry?
See, that would have been it's hard for me to pin down the year. I know where it is in the sequence of things I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
See, when did I say I was in the Army?
1951.
That was probably about 56, somewhere around.
Someone around 1956. Okay. All right. And you mentioned children before. How many children do you have?
Had 2 of our own, and we adopted one.
Okay. Okay. And then, did any member of your family pursue a wildlife-related profession?
No. My sister was very interested in wildlife. She was particularly interested in marine wildlife, but not professionally.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I guess you could say my son, he's working with salmon in Oregon.
Okay.
So he's a fisheries guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, how did your career affect your family?
Well, other than the fact that I was always working at it, I'm sure that it had some influence on my older son going into the study, working. First of all, he had a position at University of Colorado, and it was in biology and field biology. That didn't work out. Then he took a job with the government working on the salmon in Oregon.
Okay. Okay.
My other kids had no particular interest.
No. Yeah, I'm the only one in my whole family that studies wildlife. The rest of them all do business and, and things, but they think I'm the odd one. So then moving on to kind of your career and professional experience, how did you get your first job?
My first job, I got on the phone to somebody at Yale. I think it was, I just said that I was interested, and I think they had an opening, and they hired me. Bang. But then they fired me because I never got my thesis published.
Oh.
I might still be there if I'd been smart and got that thing published.
Oh, interesting. So how long were you at Yale?
2 years.
2 years, okay. And you were faculty?
Yeah.
All right. What kind of work did you do while you were there?
Well, it was wildlife. I mean, they hired me as a wildlife, and I had one student who did a project in India, and that gave me a chance to get familiar with India. Studying India has a very small population of lions that's in a protected place called the Gir Forest. And what we were doing is looking at the forage that the prey of lions was depending on, the prey being wild and domestic animals.
Okay. Was that your first international experience?
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
And it was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah. So then where did you go from Yale?
To Purdue.
To Purdue, okay.
In Indiana.
All right. And that's where you started the Isle Royal work?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a kind of a historical question. Do you remember what the pay and benefits were like in your first job?
No, I really don't.
Okay, all right.
I mean, we were able to live.
Yeah. There's a question here that says, briefly describe the profession of the day and the changes you observed over time.
Well, I haven't observed any marked changes, anything that struck me as, oh, they're doing it different now than, it all just came like this is the way it should be, this is the way it has been, at least for the recent times.
Okay.
I mean, there was no wildlife ecology much before this, before Starker, Leopold, and a few others got things started. But no, in my years, I haven't seen any notable changes. Certainly increased in the number of people
Okay.
involved. And the breadth of research. I mean, we got into some very specific things. I mean, why moose were eating a particular aquatic plant, and I determined they were probably eating that aquatic plant because it was their best source of sodium.
Yeah.
Particularly for cows that were lactating. They just went nuts for it.
And was that work that you did in Sweden?
No, but going to Sweden was a result of just that kind of work.
Okay.
Yeah, because there were people doing moose research in Sweden that was similar to or above what we were doing. It was great. Great experience.
Yeah.
I certainly recommend Sweden
Yeah.
as a country to visit. You can feel at home. Everybody speaks English. Sometimes you think, oh, I'm still in the States. And they're very nice people.
So that kind of segues into the next question. What would be your best advice for a young conservationist today?
Wow. Well, number one, I would urge them to feel that they were good scientists, willing to explore things as scientists do. In other words, not just repeat what's been done, but if you really want to get someplace, find a puzzling question and pursue it.
Okay.
At least that's what I did.
So what was your puzzling question?
Well, sodium and the aquatic plants,
Mm-hmm.
and see, there was something else. Good gravy.
The effects of ungulate herbivory, was it?
Pardon?
Was it weren't you conducting a lot of research with the effects of ungulate herbivory on vegetation?
Yeah. I'm having a hard time hearing. I'm not too good on hearing.
Oh, sorry.
Oh boy.
Maybe some of the snowshoe hare work?
Yeah. I never did anything very deep with the snowshoe hares, but I was interested in what the deer or the moose were eating and why they were eating it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some chemical work, like the sodium and I should pull out a list of my publications, but I don't know where I have a list of publications. Somewhere in that computer.
And then, so at you mentioned Yale, Purdue, and then at what point did you come to the University of Minnesota?
It was after being at Isle Royal for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure just exactly how it happened, but it was certainly the logical place.
Okay.
That's a good question, and I can't answer it directly because memory's a little flaky, but
When you arrived, was there a strong wildlife program existing, or did you kind of start things, or?
no, there was definitely a wildlife. Because there was a guy in waterfowl who'd been there for a while, and a guy in fisheries. I don't think there was anybody working on mammals
Okay.
that I can recall. Funny, I just pretty vague on things. Terrible.
So, what were the most useful tools or instruments you used over the course of your career in your research?
Sure use binoculars a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve mentioned to me that you put collars on deer with a bell on them.
Yep,
Can you explain that a little bit?
sure. Radio collaring was just coming in, and I'd heard that people were having a lot of problems, and I didn't want problems. So it occurred to me, I'll try bells, and it worked pretty darn well. Not for finding animals at a distance, but if you were within 70 or even 100 yards, you'd hear them. And I tracked them down. I snuck up on them until I could read. They had colored earmarks and colored bells, each one identified by the color design, the color and design. And it worked out satisfactorily. But another thing is that when I was in the regional office where we had stored the deer traps, I was down there. I just got talking to a guy who had been hired for a summer job to go out and dig these, whatever they call them, little depressions for animals to come and get water all year round. And he just struck me as really being sharp. So I went to his boss and I said, "Can I have him?" And he said, "Sure." And he caught deer like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And then when we later on, this was on the winter range, when we went on the summer range just to see where the animals were, he was just tops. Just couldn't have found a more capable, bright guy.
Yeah. Do you remember his name?
No, but I could turn around and get my thesis for you and give it to
All
you.
right. We can maybe get it at the end.
All right.
So what kind of questions were you asking with that study?
Well, we wanted to. The study really revolved around improving the vegetation for these animals. So I was expected to give them some information about, well, if you've treated an area, did it bring more deer in? And then if so, which plants were they eating and what were they doing to those plants?
Okay.
And so that was my whole thesis was about.
Okay.
Be glad to lend it to you and read it.
Sure. Yeah.
In addition, one question that arose, which is more important, the winter range and the summer range. Well, I had some information that showed that the summer range was critical because during summers that were dry, the fawns came down at a lower weight than if the summer had been a normal rainfall.
Okay.
That was pretty clear. When I included that in my presentation, my thesis work, Starker Leopold jumped up and said, I can't be, because he had published that the winter range is what determined.
Oh.
Well, I didn't argue with him. I had the data.
So over the course of your career, what was the most interesting project you were involved in?
Good question. I think they've all been interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love the deer project.
Your PhD work?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I like what I've been doing with the moose and the wolves.
Yeah.
Wolves, I'm just fascinated by wolves. I like to do more work with wolves.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
So what was the most pressing issue you had to deal with?
I mean, whether I was being paid and that or something. Pressing issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say that I recall ever being pressed by an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a pretty good idea what I should be trying to find out, and I did my best to try and find them out. But
Okay.
it isn't like somebody was badgering me to come up with answers or something.
Okay.
I was pretty much on my own. You know, I think I set the goals and then I pursued them. I wasn't told, go out and find this and find that.
Okay. So what do you think was the most difficult thing you had to overcome in your career?
Some of my bad habits. Not getting things written up.
Okay.
Yeah, probably failing to publish enough. Oh, I'd say that definitely is the biggest problem.
Okay. What was the high point of your career?
Oh, I guess it's when I finished my PhD.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that myself.
Yeah.
And then, conversely, what was the low point of your career?
Well, I suppose when I got fired for not having it published from Yale.
Yeah. All right, so what was your most dangerous or frightening experience?
That's a good question. I was coming down a river up in far north of, I think it's far north of Alaska. And I'd read the account of a couple of guys from England who were coming down there in a canoe, and they stopped. One guy went into the bushes, I guess he went in to take a crap or something, and he was eviscerated by a grizzly bear. And I found myself in exactly the same position, and I knew we had seen grizzly bears down below. I said, my God, this may not be safe.
Oh, wow.
There was no bear there.
Yeah.
Well, I might not be here.
Wow. Well, Steve mentioned a story of when you were in India and you saw a king cobra.
Just saw him on the road.
Okay, so you weren't in close proximity.
We were close to some snakes. In fact, one of them was in the dining room. But the big king cobra just went across the road and then up a dirt bank. Must have been 15, 20 feet.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
really scary.
So what was your most humorous experience?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that. Nothing that really strikes me. I was always in for jokes and so on, but
Yeah.
I can't think of anything specific.
So you like to kind of keep a humorous environment when you're out doing field work and keep things light?
I think so.
Okay. Well, something I just thought of about a frightening experience. For my master's at Northern Michigan, one of my committee members was Alan Robertus, and he mentioned at one point taking a canoe trip with you out to the Slate Islands. I think, and he said the weather was.
I'm sorry you mentioned that, but that's one of the dumbest things I've ever done.
Okay.
That's really stupid.
Okay.
My God. That was dumb.
So what were the circumstances surrounding that?
Well, I mean, if the weather had, we were in a canoe.
Mm-hmm.
That's 12 miles or something. And, boy, we could have been dumped into the lake and water was cold. I don't think we would have survived.
Do you remember what time of year it was?
It was in the middle of summer. I think it was fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't much matter on Lake Superior. That
No, it
water's
doesn't.
always cold.
Yeah, it's so deep that it just, it doesn't freeze much in the winter, but there's so much cold water down there that it just keeps coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you and Alan were attempting to canoe from the mainland to the Slate Islands? Is
Exactly.
that okay? And you were doing some work on, was it caribou on the Slate Islands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you made it out. You made it to the islands safely.
Yeah.
And was the return trip without incident, or was?
Without incident.
Okay.
Yeah, we started out in the morning and it was very calm. It was pretty simple.
Okay. All right. So this last question about your career might take some thought. They ask, what would you consider your 3 most significant contributions to the field?
That's tough.
Yeah.
I think one of the contributions was the number of students that I was able to take into the field and show them what research was about. I'd have to say that's fairly important considering the many, many years that many students. But little things like the fact that moose were looking for sodium when they ate these particular species of water plants is, it's not breaking news or anything, but it's nice to add that to the general findings. Or something like, what's more important, the summer rains or the winter rains for migratory deer?
Okay. Okay. All right, so now this is the final section of the interview. It's on reflections on the profession. So who are 3 people you believe are the most influential in developing the field of wildlife management, and why?
Well, of course, I'd have to start with all the Leopold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good question. Well, certainly, among the people I knew in California, I'd say that Starker Leopold definitely had a very strong influence.
Okay.
And his book on the wildlife of Mexico is important to a whole country.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other people. My faulty memory is.
That's all right. We can move on, and then if someone comes to mind, we can go back to it.
Sure.
All right. What do you think makes a great wildlife manager?
That's a good question.
And then they also say, name 3 skills that a good wildlife professional should have. So they're kind of related.
Well, you gotta have a pretty good foundation in just animal biology. Not just animal biology, but plant biology too. Not to know all the details, not down to the cells and so on, but to know the ecology of why do things grow here and not there, and why do some animals prosper in this environment but not that environment. There's just a good ecological framework.
Okay.
You can't do much without that. Other than that, certainly the way people approach research varies, but I never thought of writing a book about it or trying to define what the elements are, other than common sense.
Common sense, that's a good one. Sometimes hard to teach that one too.
Yeah.
So, why should someone become a wildlife professional today?
Well, first of all, they should be interested in the area. I mean, they shouldn't just thumb through the book and say, oh, this looks good, but they should be familiar with what's involved and say, hey, I'd like to work in that. And some people would say, oh boy, that's great. Others would say, I could care less, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a member of the Wildlife Society.
Yeah.
How do you know how long you've been a member?
I'm sure since I was a graduate student
Okay.
at Berkeley, yeah.
And how did membership in the society help your career?
Well, among other things, I got the journal. And I must have been reading papers,
Mm.
finding out who's doing what they're finding.
Yeah.
Lots of miscellaneous things going on that I wouldn't have been aware of or wouldn't have looked into otherwise than reading the journal.
Okay.
Or the, what's the other publication they put out?
The Wildlife Society Bulletin?
No, it's on longer studies than would go in the journal.
Oh, the wildlife monographs.
Monographs, yes.
Mhm. Yeah, and they now have the Wildlife Professional magazine, that quarterly
I'm not
magazine.
familiar with that.
Okay, all right. That's kind of I think it's quarterly, and it's more of a popular magazine for members. So what are your thoughts on the future of the profession?
Well, I think it's necessary. I think it's attractive. I think they will continue to attract people sincerely interested in working in it. And now, are you familiar with E.O. Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you seen his latest book?
Is the future?
On the little table.
Oh. No, I haven't seen this one.
Everybody ought to be reading this.
Okay.
I mean, that guy is amazing. I heard him talk. He was giving a talk at a symposium in Berkeley when I was here. And I said to Steve, I said, boy, I want to go. He says, I'm going. I'll go with you. And I heard him talk, and it's just nothing like it.
Wow.
He stands by himself. And now he's saying exactly what half Earth, he thinks that half of the Earth should serve as a place where species are safe and protected.
And no human intervention whatsoever, or management of some sort?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but no killing or destroying the organisms, the plants, the animals, or whatever.
So do you think that's... You think it's a good idea. Do you think it's feasible?
Good question. But I think it's very desirable to be pursuing that.
Mm.
Something equivalent to this.
Okay.
And to increase awareness. There's so many people in the world that have no idea about what's going extinct. They're giving a damn.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And a lot has been lost already.
Mm.
I mean, we've lost quite a few species right in this country.
Right.
And I think that we've pretty well stopped that. But there are a lot of countries that have not.
Right. So then the final question is there anything else you'd like to tell people about your career? Kind of a catch-all.
I'll tell them it's been fun.
Yeah?
I'm just really pleased that I chose it. Work has not been a drag. It's been something that it's stimulating. I tell them that. And I guess it's important when you think of a lot of jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important for people to hear, especially young people that are coming into the profession,
Yeah,
to know that it's a different kind of profession where you really do enjoy the work.
it's a good point. That's a good point. Something you take for granted, but step back and think about all the different professions and the things you could go into.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could have been working at the bank, making more money.
Yeah. Yes, definitely more money. All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I think you covered things very thoroughly.
Yeah, it's a pretty exhaustive list of questions they give.
Yeah.
I guess.
No. But if you have people that would like to talk to somebody that's been in wildlife, I'd be glad to do it
Okay. All right.
for whatever I can provide.
Yeah, I know you were the advisor for the club for many years,
Yeah.
and I've talked to people that came through as you were there, and the work that they did at Severud, and all the different techniques you taught them out there, and that it really made an impact on them. So what courses did you teach at the U? I know you taught the habitats course, but
I created my own course on large mammals.
okay.
And some of the, sometimes we met over in the Bell Museum, and sometimes we met in our own home building.
Okay. All right.
But that went well.
Yeah.
It was fun.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, or I think we've gone through a lot of information today.
I do actually have one more question, if that was all right. There's just been this fairly controversial issue of the banning of radio collaring moose in Minnesota. I was just wondering if you had any input, given your background.
Yeah, I think the governor has just succumbed to people that don't know what they're talking about. There's nothing wrong with radio collaring, and it's what is necessary for learning the factors that are affecting the population. And it's an example of not understanding and getting emotional over it. It's unfortunate, but these things do happen.
Have you experienced anything like that in your career or in your research?
No, I've never had that kind of that's rather unusual.
Yeah.
But when the governor himself gets into it, it's, it does have its effect.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I think if everyone's okay, everyone's asked everything.
I'm sorry I can't offer you coffee or a beer. Anyway.
Oh no, it's good.
Don't think I could accept the latter.
Yeah, he has to go to class next.
Are you laughing at me or with me?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, I guess we'll conclude the interview then. Thank you very much, Peter.
Yes.
It was great. It was great.
Well,